Hey everybody, my talk is it's time to rename Perl. It's probably not the conclusion that you might be guessing, so stick with it. So I want to share an idea that I have for Perl that I came up with a couple months ago. I actually lied to Jeff. I said that it was a humor level 3. It's actually a 0, and it's like kind of a hard talk for me to give, and you usually don't want to give these at the end, so I should have told him it was a 0, so it would have gone early. So this isn't the funny talk. It's completely serious, and it might cause, well, I hope it causes some good conversation, and I hope it doesn't cause Larry any stomach pains. And I believe that it could possibly solve a serious problem, maybe the most serious problem that we have in the Perl community today. So here goes. First, a little background. So I've been a Perl programmer since '98, which means a Perl 5 programmer since '98. I was a Perl programmer 6 programmer for only about 4 hours less than Larry. I say that because I remember in Monterey in 2000, he had a meeting where Orwant threw a cup against the wall and Perl 6 was started, and then I heard him give the speech about it, and then I was on board immediately after that. So about 4 hours later, if I recall right. I publish a lot of code in those languages and other languages, but I don't consider myself to be a Perl 5 or 6 programmer, but I very much consider myself part of the Perl community. I've spoken to, lived with, partied with, couch surfed with mongers all over the world for 20 years, and you guys are my people. So this is just kind of a side note, but anybody know why Perl 6 is on Freenode and not irc.perl.org? Because I just decided to start it on Freenode. I thought it would be a better idea because Freenode was where all the action was happening, and so yeah, actually I was just hanging out with Audrey and she said, hey, I got this Perl 6 implementation. I'm like, well, let's talk about it on IRC. And I just started Perl 6. I mean, that's all I did. You guys did all the rest. So, but I think it served the Perl 6 community quite well because it's bringing people from all kinds of languages. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just one person in this great community. And I'm not active in the guts of Perl 5 or Perl 6, but I've been involved and watching for years, and I think this gives me a perspective of things that are going on. So Perl is a naming problem. Is Perl 5 or 6? Is Perl a compliment or is it a criticism? Is Perl 6 Perl? Are Perl 6 people part of the Perl community? Should Perl 6 have a different name entirely or a pseudonym? When I say Perl, what language am I talking about? I found people have vastly different opinions on all of these questions. Some very viscerally believe that maybe even Perl 6 people don't belong, and some Perl 6 people feel like they don't belong. So I don't really need to go too much into this, but I was at the Perl 6 PTS a month and a half ago, and a few people were very upset, like they felt like they didn't belong, and some other people who were doing Perl 5 stuff actually felt like they didn't belong, and that was kind of troubling to me. And so there's this idea of maybe a pseudonym or something like that called Raku, but it mostly came from people who were Perl 5 people, and it felt like a shunning rather than a solution. So I'm not Larry, but I've been watching Larry for a long time, and I think that these things are mostly true. I would think that Perl is the name of our community. Perl is the name of a language family. Perl is a spirit of programming language. Perl 5 is a programming language. Perl 6 is a programming language. Perl 5 and Perl 6 are Perl, and the word Perl means community, family, spirit, and the implementations. So during the Perl Toolchain Summit, when some people were crying tears, feeling that they weren't belonging anymore after all the work that they've done for over a decade. Sorry. I just came up with an idea, and it was, why don't we literally rename Perl to Perl 5? And let me tell you what I mean about that. So we already naturally do that here when we're talking amongst ourselves. We say Perl 5. When we need to talk about the language and we need to make a differentiation, we say Perl 5 or Perl 6. We just do it. Let's do it publicly, and the world will follow. So what I'm saying is, let's take all of the Perl doc mentions, all of the pod in the Perl core, and just change it for where it says Perl, the language implementation, to Perl 5. And then let's start doing it in the books and the blogs, in our talks, and the people will get it and they'll follow. It's simple. And when I brought this up to RJBS, and he's like, that's a really good idea. It's interesting. And a bunch of other people said that. They were like, I expected to just shoot it down right away. So I think when we say Perl, we mean the unity. Check this out. So I'm going to run the man page for Perl. What does it say? What's the first line up there? This is real, right? This has already started. Let's just change the rest of it, and we're done. It's a pull request. I look back, and it's actually been this way since 2010, or late 2010. So we could have done this back in 2011. In 5.10, it was the practical extraction of a report language. Then it became the, for just a short time, the Perl language interpreter, and then it was the Perl 5 language interpreter ever since David Golden made that commit. So, as I said, finishing this is a pull request away, and then, of course, getting that accepted, but it's maybe something we should consider. Our unity and our community is our most valuable asset, and if we call the language Perl 5, I think that it might all work out. We have a great community, 2 great languages. I love Perl. This means I love the Perl community. This means I love all of you, truly. And that's it.